Hi, Gia Kim.
Hello.
It is a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you. This is my first radio show.
Shut up.
I know. I'm so
Never?
excited. Yeah.
Oh, she walked in. I'm like, I've seen you on TV. Hey, of course, Gia Kim on XO Kitty. I got congrats on the role, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
I got to hear the story because I'm told that when you found out you got the role of Yuri in XO Kitty, you were working as a waitress.
Uh-huh.
You were like in the middle of your shift and you get the call and you flip out, I guess. What's that whole story?
Oh God. Okay. So this was Sunday brunch shift, and Sunday my manager doesn't usually call me on Sundays. And then I get my phone ringing, and then I see it's my manager. I'm like, why is he calling me on a Sunday morning? That's really random. So I stepped out. I stepped out of the restaurant, out onto the curb of the street to take the call, and he was really cheeky about it because he was gonna he basically told me, the audition that you did just a week ago, it was another show.
Right.
And he was like, they wanted to see you in person, but I told them that you can't because you booked XO Kitty.
Oh.
And I was like, wait. And then I took like a few seconds to compute that. I was like, are you saying I got the role? Or he was like, yes. I was like, oh my God, that's how you're going to tell me. And then I just broke down like kind of in tears in the street in the morning. And I just had to kind of pull myself together before I went into the restaurant because I didn't want anyone else asking me what the other servers asking me, like, what's wrong? Are you okay? Like, I didn't want to answer that because I didn't want them to be the first people to know. I wanted to call my mom. So it wasn't like, it was too early in the morning for Korea time still. So I was going to wait to tell my mom first. And then so I just had to like pretend nothing happened and went back to work.
Okay, I got to know, and people are listening to this outside of LA as well. But just so I, what restaurant, or can you say?
It's closed. It closed during COVID. It was called Conservatory in West Hollywood. I believe it's some other name restaurant now.
So I'm picturing. Like, I worked in the restaurant back in the day, and I remember like in the back. In my head, that's where the trash cans are. Is that where you're like? Are you by the trash cans with your phone?
No. This was outside.
Oh,
because
gotcha.
the restaurant was kind of like semi outdoors. Anyways, I just stepped out for a quick second where the host stand was, and then I just took the call.
What a cool moment.
Yeah.
And you called your mom after that. Well, a little bit after that.
Yes.
What was her reaction?
I think she was. I can't remember the exact reaction, but she was just like, oh my God. She was just like very excited. And also this came after my brother had already heard that he got the role. So he was confirmed before I was.
Which I'm going to get to that later on.
Okay.
But that's another. I mean, you guys both, booked the same, but the producers didn't know that you guys were related, right?
Up until the very end, yes.
All right. How difficult is it to get this is a massive show. Netflix series, all this. How difficult was the audition process? Like, because people do auditions all the time, and I've noticed that when you think you did a great one, they hate you. When you think I screwed that up, then you get the role. I don't know where your thing kind of fell on that, but
yeah, I know how that always happens. It's so weird. I would say my self-tape, I was kind of like, I tried my best, but then again, I was still very skeptical I would get the role just because of the age range, the kind of character that she is just felt very far removed from me being like the queen bee, hailing the school and all of that. I was like, I wasn't the queen bee at my high school. Like I didn't really, rich family, all of that. And so I was like, this is a far shot, but whatever. I don't want to regret not having submitted at all.
Right.
So that was kind of where my head was at. And then when I got pinned at a few days after I submitted it, I was like, oh, something's happening. I don't even know what that means, but I got pinned. Okay. And then the holidays came around. So I had to wait like 3 weeks with no movement.
That's the worst.
It was the worst. Waiting is like the most excruciating pain. Honestly, at this point, I prefer a no than a wait. At this point, I think it's such a torture. And then New Year came around. I did another audition, like live Zoom call audition with the producers, and then they kind of told me that I didn't get the part. I was dropped from the part in the middle of this whole process,
Really?
and then I was, and then So for a week, I was already like, okay, that's it. Bye. That wasn't meant for me. So I was living my life. And then a week later, my manager tells me again, hey, actually, they want to see you again. And I was like, wait, does this happen? Is this normal? Like, why?
Whoa.
And then, and
I
then
bet you're thinking like, stop toying with me.
Yes!
Like, stop. It's up and down. And up.
Exactly. It really was an emotional roller coaster. And at this point, I was doing a play because I was like, okay, I need to distract myself. I don't want to be waiting around for this response. I'm going to like put myself to work in something. So I was doing a play. And I remember at the very end of our run, our shows, I got a call saying I did a test, like chemistry read with Anna and Minyoung. And things kind of rolled quickly at the end of it because they were like trying to pick this role, I think. And then I remember the last day of my show, I got the call saying from my manager saying, oh, they're sending you a contract today. So that was like the call I got before the last closing night of my play.
And when they sent the contract, did you not? That didn't like you still didn't feel like you had the role, or you didn't have the role at that point? 'Cause that was after the phone call, right?
Right.
Before the phone call, I mean.
This was this was after like 3 auditions and like 2 months into the whole process. And I don't know, like when you get a test deal, I still don't really know if that means it's
a test deal.
100%.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, maybe it's happening, like actually happening, but I won't know until everything's signed and the I's are dotted, So that was the whole journey.
I love the whole behind the scenes stuff. Like, it's just so emotional. Like you think you've got something, then you don't. Then they bring it back, and like, oh my, it's almost cruel.
Yeah.
Until you get the role. Then everything's great.
I know.
Describe your role, and describe Exo Kitty for starters, and then how would you describe it? We meet in an elevator. I'm like, hey, what show are you on? You're like, oh, well, it's Exo. How would you describe it going from the 10th floor to the first? And your character, like, how would you sum it up?
Okay, so Exo Kitty is a romantic comedy about the lives of teens in an international school based in Korea, as well as, adults within that world as well, teachers, parents. And all of these kids are coming from different backgrounds. They're trying to pursue love and friendship, and it's all the drama and entanglements that come with being a teenager in love. And my character is...
You're kind of snooty, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm like the...
I don't want to say it, but you're kind of...
The snooty queen bee of the high school, who is kind of starts out as an enemy, like a frenemy to the main lead, Kitty. So that's like an interesting dynamic to start off with, and then, their friendship grows from there too.
All right, and your brother, you mentioned your brother's also in Exo Kitty. There's a story, God, I love your stories, about... he wanted to add you to the cast, like text group,
Yeah.
And I think I'll let you tell the story, but I think it's a funny story.
Yeah. So I actually didn't know until he was telling this in an interview as well. But basically he had decided with Minyoung to meet up when we were all at the hotel in pre-production. And Sangwon was like, hey, can I add my sister to this group chat because she's also at the hotel? We can all meet up. And apparently Minyoung was thinking like, sure, like, okay, like, okay, your sister
Weird,
can
but
come.
okay.
Yeah. And then Minyoung put together later, oh, wait, Gia is someone's sister. So she's a castmate too. So then that kind of all came around. That was like a funny haha moment after.
So producers nobody had any idea that you guys were related until pretty much, I guess, that, right?
Well, I mean, the producers and writers knew kind of at the very end when we were doing like our last audition, like last auditions before I was confirmed. And then when they found out, they needed to confirm. This is what I heard through people afterwards, but they needed to confirm with the writers whether there was a love story between me and my brother's characters.
God, can you imagine?
Oh my God.
What a nightmare that would have been.
No one wants to see that. And I'm sure the producers would have had to cut one of us, and it probably would have been me. But yeah, so they were like, okay, no love story. Okay, good. Then we're good to go. So that's when they,
That dodged a bullet. Jeez. I hate walking around just LA or wherever, How much time do you, by the way, you live in LA, or do you spend half and half Seoul, LA?
Pretty much half and half, because all of my family's in Korea, and I'm the only one out here. So I have my own place here, but then I definitely go back at least half the time.
All right, so walking around, both places.
Mhm.
How's fan reaction been? Have you started to get the, oh my God, you're have you got that whole thing yet?
Yeah, especially in Koreatown, I would say in LA, because that's where a lot of Asians and I guess our target demographic young people
Right.
live. Especially, and also when me and my brother, we're both walking down the street or K-Town or like at a grocery store in a Korean market, we definitely get pointed at and
It must be like, are you
whispered
guys,
at.
both you guys together, like, are you guys shooting something? Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Is the fan reaction, is it bizarre? Is it exciting? Or is it just weird? I mean, I don't know how, is this new to you or?
It was exciting. It's definitely exciting because they're all excited to see us too. And it's really cute because a lot of teens or very young people are not subtle when they recognize. Like they're like they give this reaction and we're like, yep, okay.
You know, like, when you've been spotted.
Yeah, they're very excited about it, which we love. But then what's also exciting for me is when kind of a not target demographic person comes up to me being like they watched the show, like a grown middle-aged man, for instance. Like,
Right.
I'm not expecting them to have seen XO Kitty, but then this one guy at like a Korean market, I remember he came up to us and we were like, you guys are an XO Kitty, right? I was like, wait, you watched the show? I love that, when someone kind of I don't expect knows about the show. I love that too.
I can imagine you walking around, especially with like you said, the youngers, everything's kind of quiet in the store, and all of a sudden, oh my God! Hey, what's next? Are you busy auditioning? I assume you'd be busy auditioning for things like Crazy at this point, right? Or what's an actor doing?
That would be a lovely, but unfortunately, since the strikes last year that lasted for a long time, I feel like the industry is very slow in general. So I haven't been auditioning as much as I would like to. Prior to the strike, I guess.
Auditions suck anyway, though. Do you hate them as much as I do? I hate them.
You know what? I don't know. Maybe it's because it's so sparse that I appreciate them so much when I get them that I'm like, oh my God, yes, an audition. And I get kind of excited because I get to play a role, even for that one scene or 3 scenes that I get. I'm like, yes, like I'm going to get to act. So I actually get excited. Obviously, if I'm doing a live audition, like self-tapes are different, I think, but when I do it's nerve-wracking for sure. But I think one thing that I've learned for myself to do that helps me enjoy the process is I pretend like I got the job already and I'm just doing it with the director on set.
You're not auditioning, you're just acting.
Right. So I'm just doing the job.
That's a better way to look at it, I guess.
Yeah, it really helps. It's like a perspective shift, but it makes a difference for me.
All right, I'm curious, Gia Kim, your favorite, don't say XO Kitty.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite, give me a couple of your favorite shows that you watch.
On Netflix or?
On anything.
Well, I just finished watching Modern Family again.
Oh, okay.
For like the 3rd time. I love that show.
That's your show. Got it.
Friends is like my all-time favorite show, though. It has to be. It's my brother and my favorite show.
My daughter Soph has watched that show at least 37
Friends?
times. Yeah.
Oh my
Friends.
God, me too.
She just can't get enough of that
Me
show.
too,
I mean,
me
she can
too.
recite the whole thing.
Me too.
Do you have a favorite K-pop group or artist?
I would say in the peak of my K-pop phase was high school, and that's when 21 and Big Bang were really big for me. So I would say those two.
I have never interviewed either of them. I just one of these days. Have you met either of those two?
I've met Big Bang at a Mnet show in Hong Kong, like backstage. I was just like, I just like passed them by. But 21 I haven't seen in person.
If I ever get them in, I need to call you up. Say, hey,
God,
Gia, I got 21 coming in here.
I
Hey,
know.
how cool is it to have G Idol's, I Do, which you were in the short video for I Do.
Yeah.
G Idol's, short video. How cool is it to have that featured in season 2? Is that kind of two worlds, like it just it was meant to be, I guess, right?
You know what? I was like, wait, did they know that I was in their music video to use this as my intro song? I was like, they have to have known. But then I asked the showrunner, she was like, I didn't know. I don't know if anyone knew in the editing room. I don't know, but I don't know. If no one truly knew that I was in their music video and used that song as the character's intro song, I would say that was definitely fated.
That's two things that are kind of fate-ish.
Uh-huh.
You and your brother, both booking, roles on the show, and they not knowing. And then this thing is sort of like, just, I don't know, meant to be
Yes.
in multiple ways.
For sure.
All right, Gia, I am, this has nothing to do with acting, nothing to do with K-pop. I am obsessed with the paranormal. Ghost, haunted houses. I'm sure, somebody told you about this.
Yes.
I even have a podcast called Paranormalish. I talk to people who've had real paranormal encounters. I do it year round.
Wow.
Have you had, and it's okay if you haven't, have you ever had anything you would consider a paranormal experience?
I think so. I mean, does seeing spirits count?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's kind of it, really.
Yeah. Okay. I've definitely had that, and the most visceral experience of that was this was 2 years ago ish. I was at home in LA, and this was my old home. I was looking out the balcony. It was like 2 a.m. and I lived at the time in front of a church, so it was a very empty church parking lot. No one was there. 2 a.m. and I suddenly saw these swirls of bright white balls of light in the clouds. It was like swirling around in a way that I'd never seen before. It didn't look like a flashlight was going up in the clouds. It was very like boom, boom, like this kind of energy.
This is just
in the
outside
clouds.
or inside the church?
Outside in the clouds.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right. And then I was like, what is that? Is that like, are people just beaming up lights at this point? What's happening? And I looked everywhere to see if there was any sort of action. Nothing was happening. It's very residential, very quiet. And I see these balls of light. I was like, that is interesting. I was still skeptical as to what I was looking at the time. And then I remember thinking like, they kind of looked like children are running around in the sky or something, just the movement of the lights. So then I forgot about it. And then a few years later, this was this past summer, this was in Bali, completely different country. I was at my Airbnb. And again, it's like midnight, very dark, very residential hill, nothing, no light pollution around us. And I see the same balls of light in the clouds that I'd seen a few years ago back in LA. And I knew they were the same because the way they were moving, the size of them, the shape of them was the same. And they were like, again, swirling in the clouds again. And I was like, they're back. Like, what are they? I don't know. Like,
do you have a gut feeling on what? Or you get into that gut?
I did get a gut feeling. And this time I made this connection. I was like, oh, last time I remember thinking they looked like children running out around in the sky. And this time, the second time I saw them, I just knew that this might sound weird, but
please, you're talking to the right guy for this.
I knew that they were the spirits of my unborn children.
Whoa.
I know.
That's a I'm going to do some research into this.
Knew.
Have you heard of that like theory or before? Or I haven't I've talked to a lot of people about a lot of things. That's never come up. That's very fascinating.
Like unborn children spirits?
No, I've never. I mean, I've never. I don't have any interviews with people. This is my first, basically.
Okay.
What the heck?
Yeah, I was really freaked out. I was like, whoa, like where? But it makes sense. Like it still kind of, as I'm saying, it sounds very, like I can't obviously logically explain it, but I just knew like gut feeling. Like
that is pretty. If you could, as you look up in the sky and saw this, are you going to have 1 kid, 2 kids? How many were up there?
I didn't count, but there was definitely more than 2. And I was like, whoa, how many kids am I going to have? But I think obviously it would just depend. Like if they manifest into physical form, only a few of them, I guess, would come into their
Super
bodies.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Super. Okay.
Yeah.
Would you ever consider staying, because I do a lot of investigations, I'd say a lot, a fair amount.
Mm-hmm.
And would you ever consider, 2 things, joining me for an investigation? We'll go to like some creepy place.
Yeah.
Like really haunted.
Yeah.
Or would you ever, in your travels, consider, because you stay in a lot of hotels and whatnot, would you ever consider requesting the haunted room?
Definitely, I would take you up on the investigating because I love exploring new things anyways. That would be really fun. And then secondly, staying at a haunted room, I don't know. It depends on what kind of spirit is haunting the place. I feel like I definitely believe in spirits, and I definitely believe in spirits lingering around in physical realms for whatever reasons. And I feel like if they're very negative vibes, like they're not happy, they're out for revenge or whatever, I don't know if I can deal with that type of energy. Yeah.
Because you'd be surprised, all these hotels you stay in, a lot of beautiful, great hotels all over the world, with your travels and your promo for Exo Kitty and all this. But a lot of them, if not most of them, have, hey, just so you know, don't stay on the 7th floor, or room
Mm.
522 is don't go in there. Every
Mm.
hotel seems to have something.
Yeah.
And I've requested the haunted room a couple of times, and it's just, sometimes nothing happens. Sometimes you
Uh-huh.
have bizarre dreams. Sometimes, I've heard some wild stories. So,
Uh-huh.
if you happen to by accident,
Yeah.
that happens, kind of bookmark it in your brain, and next time I see you, just tell me. I would love to hear a story. Hopefully, it
Wait.
doesn't happen to you. But
Wait, but okay, when you go to any hotel, do you always ask them, is there a haunted room here?
no, I don't. If I'm with my wife and daughter, they don't want any part of it. Although we've stayed on the Queen Mary. You familiar with the Queen Mary?
Oh, the cruise?
There's a ship
Oh, okay.
in
Yeah.
Long Beach,
Right.
which it doesn't sail anymore,
Uh-huh.
but it's known for being haunted,
Oh,
and it's
right.
basically in Long Beach, and it's a hotel,
Oh.
and you can stay on the ship, and they have just haunt after haunt after.
Right.
It's beyond haunted.
Yeah.
So we've stayed there before, and I've stayed there on my own and done my own running around there. But my wife and daughter, they're not about it. They're like, no.
What was your crazy experience with the paranormal?
I haven't seen I haven't seen someone walk in front of me like, oh, there is a ghost. I haven't seen that. But I've had doors. I was in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, just outside of Philly, and I lived there for 4 or 5 months. That's another story. But we lived in a building, and I went to go get on the elevator, and if you picture like a hallway, like there's an elevator room in a lot of hotels, and then there's doors on either end, and the doors were open, so you could walk into the elevator room, so to speak. And all of a sudden, there could be technically, an emergency feature to close these doors in case of a fire. I get that. But these doors slammed, maybe 2 in the afternoon, 3 in the afternoon. These doors went from open to split second. Ba-bam! Slammed shut. And after that, weird things started happening. Lights started dimming on and off in the room. And in our that happened. I went back to our apartment. My wife's like, "You look like you saw a ghost." Just joking around. And I'm like, "I think I did." It was. I mean, these doors. If a little old lady would have been walking by, it would have knocked her out or across the room that hard. So I don't think that would be an emergency feature.
Yeah,
Because
no.
the door slamming would be worse than probably the original emergency.
Yeah.
So that's in lights would dim on and off in our apartment. There
Right.
is another
Wow. Oh my
backstory to that
God.
place, but that's one of the weirder things I've had happen.
Wow.
And I've heard we do a lot of recording in some of these haunted places, and sometimes these voices will pop up, on the audio that you don't hear, when you're in person there.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know, hard to explain. Who knows what it is? It's crazy. All right.
I love that.
Once again, Gia Kim's hanging out. Gia, I couldn't find your Instagram.
Oh, yes.
What, are you taking a pause from the whole thing? And if
Yes.
so, how's it feel?
Okay. So yeah, it's been about 10 days, I think, since I deactivated my public Instagram. I'm just taking a break, for many reasons, for very different but multi-layered reasons that all just came together to this one conclusion. It was like New Year's Eve at my house at night, and I was like, I'm gonna do it. I know the show's coming out soon, so it might be terrible timing, but I think that's also why I should do it, because yeah, it's just a lot. I actually love content on social media because I've curated in a way that feeds me what I want to look at.
Right.
But it's more the social dynamic part of it that kind of was wearing me out a little bit over the years since the show kind of blew up in first season, and then I amassed all these followers in just a matter of few days, which obviously is such a big blessing. But I think everything obviously also comes with cons, right? And I feel like because there's so much clout to be made on social media, for good and bad, I feel like it also attracts a lot of. At the end of the day, I think I felt like a lot of energy was leaked on social media for me. I felt like my energy was being leaked out into something that wasn't particularly fulfilling or emotionally fulfilling for me. So
I get it.
I was like, I just want to close that tap that's been dripping water. That's kind of what it felt like. And then I was like, I just want to seal that tight so that I can hone all of that water into something I want to create. And because I have a lot of projects that I also want to create for myself, the upcoming as well. So I was like, everything else, I just need all the tabs to be closed so that I can just channel all of that into very purposefully into something I want. So that's like, that was a part of the process of just deactivating it for now until I want to use it with intention for something.
God, you're making me want to do, because similar things, like a lot of good comes from, social media, the fires in LA, people are helping people through social. That's one of the good.
Yes.
But sometimes, things get real toxic in multiple genres for multiple it's just, after a while, it's hard to, if I could figure out, for me personally, a way to just take the good and throw the bad out, which I'm pretty good at that, but sometimes you're like, what's this clown saying, So the off switch seems pretty awesome.
Yeah, and it's just like even the small things like uploading a story and then like just my thumb would just go to see who checked my stories when it doesn't even mean anything anymore. I'm just like habitually doing it. Oh, who checked my stories? Like, what does it matter? Doesn't matter. Why am I doing that?
But you still do it. You're
just
like,
so habitual. Like all these like kind of, this is what I mean, energy leaks of like just unnecessary things that don't serve me. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna shut that off.
I may take you. I may follow your lead on that at some point. All right, Gia Kim, of course, Exo Kitty is out. Well, season 2 on Netflix. Final question: message to Exo Kitty fans, your fans. What would you like to say?
Thank you so much for your support. It really just means the world to all of us on the show, and I hope that you love season 2 just as much as season 1, if not more. And just keep an eye out, keep watching, keep supporting. I love you guys, and thank you so much. And I will be back on Instagram when I feel like the time is right. So I may, not be able to interact with you guys and through social media for now, but I'm here, I'm listening, I'm watching. Thank you.
It's a real pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much, JoJo. This was so nice.
So cool. At the end of every interview, Gia, fist bump to make it official. Give me a love.
Yes. Thank you so much, JoJo.